Hello. Welcome to the Field of Streams, where every week I, your host Janeen McCrae, read a short piece of my writing to you so that you don't have to. It's just a little thing I do. Now, as I say pretty much every week, actually I do say every week, I can't promise you much with these missives, but I can promise you this. I won't keep you long. If this is your first time listening to Field of Streams, I typically do a little setup before I read the thing to you about the inspiration or the themes that are contained within. In today's episode, I'm finally, sort of, partly, not really, but also totally, trying to face my fears as it relates to AI making art. And when I say the word art, I mean like the arts, anything held within the arts. So film, design, writing. Because in particular, I'm talking about ChatGPT taking my job. I'm only half joking about that. Ugh. As a writer, which I am happily calling myself here, the idea of entering a prompt into a window and having AI write something that is passable, in the sense that most people probably wouldn't recognise that it's AI, and it does so in the blink of an eye, well, I find that quite confronting, I guess. But, like Nick Cave, I don't think there is any heart in it. So I don't worry so much about it in terms of the things that I write for this particular newsletter, for example. But I do think it can easily fake its way through some of the work requirements of a copywriter, which is how I pay my rent. But as I said, when I say art, I mean the arts. Sure, there are tool-like elements to all AI that writes or makes pictures or whatever, but where is the heart of that art? When ChatGPT first started actually making the news, it was early on in the life of this newsletter, so probably, 2.5 to 3 years ago. Someone said to me, "Oh, Janeen, you should use it to generate ideas to write about. It's awesome." I felt really weird about doing that, like I was cheating on my brain or something, but I thought, okay, I'll ask it to generate 5 possible things to write about as it related to a very specific theme that I was already going to write about, and just see what it came up with. And so I typed in a prompt, and in about a second, it seemed even shorter than that, it whipped out 5 things which were whatever, meh. Now, instead of seeing this as a potential shortcut that I could use, perhaps, I had a very different reaction. I scrapped the whole idea. It felt like I'd been manipulated. And perhaps you're rolling your eyes right now, and that's fair enough, I guess, but I felt like I couldn't use any of those directions because I didn't come up with them, and they didn't feel like they were mine. A brain makes connections. I like to saddle up a brain and ride. ChatGPT is simply not my horse, not my rodeo, so I closed it. Never wrote that post, and never will. And I did not open ChatGPT again until I wrote the post that I'm about to read to you today. When I was getting near the end of wrapping up this piece, writing, I thought it would be funny to fire up ChatGPT, which I hadn't done in a very long time, and ask it to write me a poem. Because in the piece I say, can ChatGPT ever be a poet? And so I asked it to write me a 5-line poem. And then I asked it to look at what it wrote and tell me why it thought it was art. The poem was okay. I've written worse. And I'll read that to you after I read today's post, so stick around for that. What do you think? Can artificial intelligence make art? Or is it just an approximation? Are you worried about the future of your art because it seems like it's been in some way devalued by the presence of generators and prompts? Can creativity be engineered? Ugh, so many questions. Sorry, long intro today. Sit back, relax, and allow me to read to you a piece of my writing called Is There Art in Artificial? Soulless, loveless, heartless, artless. These are the learning words, the giving words, the verses and stings and swells of my artificial intelligence lament. The official theme song of ChatGPT, managed by the flattest of agents, championed by the drones of our future as they hold their lamp at unemployment's golden door. The future. Of what? Nobody knows exactly. The future is unwritten, though ChatGPT could take a swing at jotting something down if you ask it nicely. The future will simply be a smudge made clearer by the polish of time's rag. I wrote that. That was me. My own words. We are doomed.
Overreaction alert. New prompt.
Or are we? Get on board or get out of the way, crusty writer gathering dust. Write the right prompt or leave promptly. Old school board broad. The future is exhausting. This place, it is a funny place. Or is it a time and not a place? And what's so funny about it anyway? Are you just laughing because you don't know what to say? Are your words dried up? Has your art abandoned you to the sound of seconds ticking and a body creaking older, made even crustier by the approaching rust of the final clock stop? The end of your profession. You know whose words never dry up? ChatGPT. Okay, stop. Perhaps I should ask the acronym this question. Is there art in artificial intelligence? Andy Warhol said he wanted to be a machine. I read that somewhere in his diaries. His yearning, I suspect, was rooted in the possibility of the prolific output of things. Art things, printed things. Just more of all Andy's things. A production line of his mind, spewing out endless art from the factory, flooding our world and making the value of art itself valueless. I'm projecting, but I can't help but wonder. Would he have loved ChatGPT? Or DALL-E? Or Midjourney? Would he have embraced it as a powerful tool to make a gazillion copies of his memes, because he would have been an absolute meme fiend? Or would he have recoiled in a sort of Luddite-led horror at what the timeline had wrought? No, don't make it like that. Not like that at all. Is AI in competition with the concept of the value of art? What a time to be alive. Or dead inside. It's artificial, thus not alive, right? It has no pulse, ain't got no soul. It is inanimate and therefore, by my understanding of the concept, also dead. R.I.P. GPT. But it does have one thing all living things covet: infinite time. And as it is now packaged, sold and editorialised, it's all about time. The saving of, the giving back, the tool of time placed in our overworked hands. Humans don't got no time for the mundane drudgery of taking time, of sweating the small things, of making colossal mistakes and wasting it and having to go back. To start over. ChatGPT loves the start again. It waits for it in its moments of deadness. Just tweak the prompt and away you go and it's off to the races again. Seconds, milliseconds. It's all so easy to time's saviour.
Overreaction alert. New prompt.
Perhaps Warhol's desire stemmed from wanting to free himself from the time constraints of production, the work of it, the desire to churn out as much work as possible in the time he had, not realising at the time just how limited that would turn out to be. He made production line art, of a sort, for a production line market, of a kind, that continually consumed itself. That's probably the joke. The efficiency of time eating itself out of existence. More time equals more art, the art of his artificial. Get on board or get out of the way, lest one becomes irrelevant. Right, Andy? The more time I have, the more I procrastinate. I guess that's on me. I can't help but think that in our effort to give ourselves more time to be human, we just might be wiping ourselves out. Will the final prompt be to remove all references to our existence from the timeline? Who will input that?
Overreaction alert. New prompt.
It is a tool. A tool is not a threat. It means me no harm, not consciously. Right? Right. Tell that to the obsolescence at my shoulder, whispering fear in my ear. The machine of me is stubborn, refuses to look, refuses to admit my complicity. The irony of it. I was taught by experts, or so I was led to believe. The books I read and read, the teachers I sought out and seek. ChatGPT was also taught by experts. We gave it the books. We gave it the teachers. In this way, we are the same. Taught by experts. Anyone can say they are an expert these days. My dad calls them spurts. What's a spurt, Dad? A drip under pressure. It's an old joke. Does ChatGPT understand humour? The world needs more comedians. And poets. But what is a poet anyway? Can ChatGPT be a poet? Will it wear the melancholy well? Does it have the instinct? Where in this code is the heart cavity, the spirit? Its intelligence may be artificial, but is its concept of art less sweet because of it? The pistons and the pulleys, the circuits and the switches, the machine and the computer and the fakery and bluster and learning by being a student of all human works and deeds and chewing on the flesh of our evidence. All evidence of our lives and loves and questions, and every stray thought had by an insomniac lying in the dark as the wide-eyed dryness of reality sets in. Does AI ever sleep? And while we're at it, what is intelligence? Does that just mean book smart? Where does emotional intelligence come into it? When ChatGPT wins a Pulitzer, will our desire for recognition for our art become redundant? Everything is redundant in this future, right? So many questions.
Overreaction alert. New prompt.
Artificial intelligence takes no days off and doesn't quite quit or any of those annoying human things. ChatGPT takes a swing and types fast and regurgitates on a plate in front of us, and we are amazed. It is amazing. Prompts. It just needs a prompt. There is art in crafting the prompt. That's what the advocates say. That's where the jobs are, will be. Get on board or get out of the way. What is job? What is future? What is time? The job of the poet is to write poetry, not prompts. Right? Right? Am I right? Poets have soul and debts and doubts. Does ChatGPT experience doubt or dread? Could it write a poem about existence and the yawning black chasm of questions? Where is the soul kept in the schematics of man or machine? Does ChatGPT have feelings? A machine is only as good as its learning, and most of us are dumb. Have I just hurt it because I implied it was dumb? Dumb because we're dumb? Will it write a revenge poem about how dumb we are? Or is it empty inside? A hollow shell. A husk born without context or content or contentment or struggle. There's poetry in that, if it ever wants to write it, unprompted. Is there art in artificial? Tell me now! The centre of our ambition cannot hold. Not a line, not a candle, not a word. I tell myself a machine has no soul, a machine has no heart. A machine will not stop, step back and look. A machine just keeps going, making perfect art, or so it assumes, right from the start. It's my way of self-soothing. Nick Cave, the musician, said that ChatGPT was, quote, mechanising the imagination, end quote. I would add to that, process of. It mechanises the process of imagination, because it has no idea what imagination is beyond the definition it has been fed, what the dictionary says it is, what others say it feels like to imagine. And then it imitates this, mimics. Is that enough to make art? Are we all just imitating each other? Is imagination the cornerstone of all art? What is imagination anyway? Do I even know what imagination is? I know that I know precisely what it is, because I don't know what it is. I never know where it comes from, or how it starts, or where to be to receive it. I don't know the location of the pin that is pulled from my brain to allow the leakage of the insanity, the magic, the dreamscape of flow, nor do I know who pulls it. The space between a colour and a shape, between the texture of our minds rubbing against the consciousness of thought and breaking down the sinews and matter and the sound of an atom exploding into space. Falling into a pit with words and images swirling as soup of the universe, particles smashing and creative croutons bobbing away. And do you ever wonder if you're asleep in that moment or dead? How do you imagine the apple when the apple is not there? Is ChatGPT beside you in that moment, gazing into the dark maw of the abyss and counting the teeth and fearing success and abandonment in that one cruel moment of bite? Does it throw itself at the feet of failure, as I do? I'm sure ChatGPT will tell me what failure is if I ask it, suggest ways to fight and to back away from the feet of it, if I keep asking it questions. Machine learning. But does it understand? It can tell me what the feeling is and means, but is unable to experience it for itself. No heartache, no love, no rejection, no art. So, no. I am not afraid of ChatGPT because it has no soul. I am afraid people don't care either way. Art is dead, film is dead, music is dead, books are dead. All the poets in all these realms are dead or dying, yet all around me their bodies sing. ChatGPT prompt. Write me a 5-line poem about existential dread and a future where humans are replaced by machines. I read its poem. I bow to my new artificial overlords. Now that's art!
Sarcasm alert. New prompt.
Run. Flavour, colour, sweetness. All the arts of the artificial blended in humanity's gallery. Red dots sold, bought and paid for with the poetry of our future. And there you have it, today's episode. If you made it to the end, which is here, you're in for a treat. As I mentioned, I was curious as to ChatGPT's ability to not just write a poem, but to defend its artistic merits. The prompt I gave it, as mentioned in the piece, was, write me a 5-line poem about existential dread and a future where humans are replaced by machines. This, ladies and gentlebots, was the poem. In shadows cast by metal minds, human dreams fade, lost to time. Gears and circuits rule the day, flesh and bone left in decay. Hope whispers in the void, confined. Well, there you go. Interesting. I mean, it rhymed. Minds, time, day, decay. But is it art? Let's see what it thought about its own poem. Before I read the response to you, let me just pause here and give you, a non-ChatGPT real live person, some advice. If anyone ever asks you why something you've written or painted or made is art, the only correct response is to say, fuck off. If I say it's art, it's art. Anyway, what was ChatGPT's response? It's sort of typical overblown and verbose AI talk, what I would call marketing fluff. But this is what it said when I asked to say why the poem it wrote was art. Quote, "This poem is art because it encapsulates profound themes of existential dread and a future dominated by machines within a concise and evocative format." Each line builds on the imagery of a world where human existence is overshadowed by artificial intelligence, creating a stark contrast between the organic and the mechanical. The use of metaphors like shadows cast by metal minds and flesh and bone left in decay evokes a visceral sense of loss and decay, prompting the reader to reflect on the implications of such a future. The final line, "Hope whispers in the void, confined," introduces a glimmer of hope amidst the despair, adding depth and complexity to the narrative. This interplay of imagery, emotion, and thought is what elevates the poem to a work of art, engaging the reader's imagination and emotions. End quote. Yep, I think we can all agree that that is just some barnyard-level horseshit right there. I have closed ChatGPT, and I can think of no reason to open it again any time soon. Anyway, that was that. I hope you'll join me again next time for some new words from my brain, 100% from my own brain. These little missives are designed to show people that inspiration can come from anywhere, except ChatGPT. So you may as well just get out there and make something of your own. If you enjoy my writing, please be sure to subscribe to the Stream newsletter, where I keep all my writing, which is at janeenmccrae.substack.com. And until next we meet, love what you love, and I'll see you out there making stuff. And I apologise, this was a bit longer than normal, but that's what you get.